Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We just got some really exciting Halo news, and I don't want to count these chickens before they hatch, but I think it might be exactly what I want to hear about the Halo franchise going forward. And that's really exciting, so I needed to talk about it. If you haven't heard, right before the final match of the 2024 Halo World Championships, they played this video package that was extremely unexpected. They don't usually really show much of anything at that point. But this time they've decided to put out this video package that basically announces this new era of Halo. They're making a very big deal about it, right? Like, they're calling it basically this new chapter in the Halo franchise, where if like chapter 1 is the Bungie era, which is this like legendary, historical, amazing, immaculate, can't be touched, saga that created Halo and made it what it is today, and then the 343 Industries era, which I still think was good, but was certainly a step down from what Bungie had done in the past. And now they're doing this hard cut and saying, and now we're a brand new thing. And to go along with that, they're also rebranding the studio from 343 Industries to Halo Studios, which is admittedly a really boring name that doesn't exactly inspire awe or creativity or anything. It's literally just, well, we're the studio that makes Halo. That's really the only part of this announcement that I'm disappointed by, and it's literally just going to be a splash screen at the start of whatever the next Halo game is, so I think I'll get over it. But like, what a boring name. I mean, it's straightforward, I guess. Like, you know what they're doing. They're the Halo studio and they're making Halo, so it seems pretty easy to follow, but I don't know, pretty lame. And I've seen some people giving them a lot of trouble online, which is not surprising. The internet is a hellscape, but a lot of people are like very incorrectly arguing with them and saying like, oh, you're just trying to call yourself something new, to make a split, to try and separate yourself from like the mistakes of the past, which again, the previous Halo games were perfectly fine. They all performed well. They sold really well. They were all pretty highly critically acclaimed. Like, they all did well enough. It's just this perception about them. And I do think that there's certainly a good reason to try and separate yourself from that previous sort of negative perception that the 343 Industries era of Halo has had. It makes a lot of sense. I get it, right? I think that that's the correct decision. But for people to say, oh, you're just changing the name, is incredibly short-sighted and implies that you don't really know what's going on at that studio. Because basically, since the launch of Halo Infinite, that studio has changed almost 100%. The entire leadership structure is different. Either they've quit or been fired or gone to other places or whatever. But they're completely new. Most of the staff is different, both from a combination of layoffs and people going to other teams and being moved around. The studio, now known as Halo Studios, may be sitting in the same chairs that that 343 sat in, but it's completely new butts. Like, it is new people from front to back in that studio, damn near. So this is the start of something new for Halo. Whether people want to admit that or not is up to them. I know that there's this like toxic negativity online about not just Halo, kind of Xbox in general, but to say that this is not something different after everything that has changed at that studio is incredibly ignorant. And I think that the person now leading the studio, Pierre Heinz, everything that we have heard about him going forward, or from people within the studio, has been extremely positive. People are extremely excited to be working with him. They know he's doing a great job. He seems to care a lot more about his employees than previous leadership, and he's listening to a lot more of their opinions than previous leadership. He is almost by himself with his new leadership structure enough to justify, in my opinion, a name change. And then on top of that, everything else that I've already said. So if you're one of the people who's like, oh, you're just trying to distance yourself from 343, you're right, but it's so much more than that. And on top of that, on top of changing the name and 98% of the staff, they've also switched to a new engine. So they've switched from the Slipspace engine to Unreal Engine 5. If you didn't know about the Slipspace engine, it's this proprietary engine that 343 Industries made in collaboration with Microsoft. And they made Halo Infinite in it, and I think maybe they had done some of the previous Halo games in it. I don't actually know, but certainly Halo Infinite was in Slipspace. And Slipspace was not a bad engine. This is not a change that's because, like, oh, this engine was terrible. In fact, by all accounts, again, it was a perfectly functional. It was a perfectly functional engine. It did everything they needed it to do. I mean, it was an engine that was built to make Halo. So, like, of course, it's going to be good at making Halo. The problem goes beyond that. So, being able to switch away from this proprietary engine to this industry standard Unreal Engine 5, because basically everyone in the industry has some amount of experience with Unreal Engine 5. I have not really worked in the industry. I had one very brief contract QA role, and even I have experience making games in Unreal Engine 5. Like, I went to school for programming and engineering, and I made projects in Unreal Engine 5 because that was the one that they were like, you're gonna need to know this going forward. And that is true across the board, right? So switching to that means that you're not going to have the problem that they had with a lot of their previous employees, where when they hired somebody new, they had to give them however many months to sort of teach them how to use this engine. People are able to come in and immediately know what they're doing and immediately get to work. And beyond just being able to immediately start the job, like at the level that you would hope for an employee to be able to do their job at, they also are going to be able to bring in experience from these other studios that they've worked at and have solutions to problems when they come up. Even if they're coming up for the first time at Halo Studios, it may have been something that they ran into when they were working at, I don't know, Bungie or the Coalition or whatever. They may already have the solution to a problem that has not occurred yet. And that's extremely valuable and is going to save them a lot of time. And on top of saving them time in that regard, it also frees up a lot of their workspace, because when you're a team that has your own proprietary engine, what that means is that you're also the one who has to update this thing and keep it running and make the tools work with all the new hardware and do all the things that you want it to do. So you end up having to dedicate a lot of time and effort and honestly money into making sure this engine stays up to date and stays good. If you're using Unreal Engine, Epic does that for you. You don't need to worry about that, right? There are a lot of studios who will still like make little extra tools to go along with an Unreal Engine or whatever sort of purchased licensed engine that they use to be able to sort of specialize and do the things that they want to do. But the vast majority of what they're doing is going to be something that is just a lot of work being taken off their plate, is basically what I'm getting at, right? And that's going to free up a lot of people to be able to make Halo content faster and better and be able to get these updates going more quickly, which is something that's very important for a game like Halo, where it's going to end up being this live service thing with a multiplayer element where people are going to be constantly demanding like new maps and new guns and new modes and all this stuff. They'll have so many more people not having to worry about like, oh, but do we need to update the lighting engine, and can instead be like, what about this cool new map idea I have, right? So that's going to help them out a lot. It's really great. And then on top of that, it's really good for an Xbox studio in particular, because the leading team using Unreal Engine is the Coalition, the Gears of War team, another Xbox team. It might sound crazy, but they are widely considered to be even better at using Unreal Engine than the people at Epic Games in a lot of instances. They are sort of sent out as this task force, not just inside Xbox Studios, but also to like their partner studios, to help them correct problems with whatever project they're working on in Unreal. They're sort of like this video game industry equivalent of like Geek Squad. Like, you'd call them and they pull up in a crappy white van and be like, all right, let's get this problem fixed, right? Like, that's what the Coalition has been. And so on top of freeing up space on your own, or like you're clearing, all this work off your own plate, you're also able to look to your peers at other studios and be like, hey, we're running this problem. Have you run into anything like that? And also you can like search online, right? Like, that's a brand new thing. I'm getting too into the weeds with this, But basically the point is, this is going to dramatically not only speed up the rate at which they're able to put products into production, but it's also going to allow them to be a lot more adaptable. So when they hear about a problem that the fans or whatever are having with something in their game, it being an Unreal Engine means that they're going to be able to more quickly fix or change or add whatever it is that the community needs. And honestly, they've already been doing a relatively good job of that with Halo Infinite. So this is only going to become a good thing. Now, the one negative that I do have about this is that I do feel like the industry is sort of over relying on Unreal Engine 5, which could become an issue. But this is the right choice for 343, or for Halo Studios. Sorry, that's going to take a while for me to get used to. They've run into a lot of problems. They need to be able to just focus on the work. And if this is what is going to allow them to do that, then this is the correct choice. This is what they need to do, and I'm 100% for it. And to help them get ready for doing that, they've actually started working on something called Project Foundry, which is not a game. It's a sort of test bed for Halo ideas, is sort of how they describe it. It's allowing them to sort of create assets and play in the space of Unreal Engine and like basically find out, what does Halo look like in Unreal Engine? And that's where all of the clips and images and stuff that they've shared through not just the World Championship video, but through other stuff that they've done in the day since, have come from. And it's pretty exciting because they've said in no uncertain terms that basically everything that they've made in Foundry and therefore shown to us is something that they're expecting to show up in a future Halo project. So when we're looking at these clips, we can sort of start to try and figure out like where the Halo franchise is going in the future, and that's very exciting, right? Because we see a lot of things in these clips that are things that we would have already expected to see, right? Like we see obviously Master Chief, and he's wearing this very blocky, very Halo CE armor that I'm assuming is not Final Draft because it doesn't look quite right to me. But also we see like a very standard Pacific Northwest, like, you know, the trees and rocks that you expect from a Halo game. They show us a snow level, which is exciting because we haven't had a ton of those in Halo. And then they show us, to me, the most exciting thing, which is this screenshot of a world that's just completely overrun with flood, to the point where instead of plants, you're seeing these like rolling fields of flood like biomass that's just creeped all over the planet. And that has me really exciting. That has me really interested to see what direction they take Halo in the future, because that's something that we've really wanted from Halo as a fan base, is like, what is going on with the flood? We haven't seen them in a couple games now, and people have been asking for a long time for sort of spin-off projects that might get into the weeds of what that is. And we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later, because the other part of this that I really want to talk about, and that I think is important to talk about, is the changes are not just technical. It's not just an engine change. It's not just a name change. They've also gone into a lot of detail about how they're changing sort of the workflow and the culture and the organization of the studio to work significantly better. For one, they're hiring for a ton of positions, which is why they made this announcement, is just they wanted to say, like, we're working on a lot of things and we're changing these things, and if you want to be part of it, you should apply to work with us, because they've just laid off a bunch of those people and they're starting basically a new studio in the shell of the old one, so they need a lot more people hired. And when you look at those listings, something you'll notice is that almost none of them are contract positions. And that was a huge problem with 343 Industries, is almost everyone who worked there, it seemed like, was a contract worker. And what that meant in the state of Washington, if you're a contract worker and you work for the same company for a certain amount of time, they have to hire you. And 343 refused to do so, so they would just let those people go after a certain amount of time. So you would bring people in, they'd be working on this proprietary engine that they didn't know how to work with. They'd work with it for a certain amount of time, get good at it, and then shortly after they became proficient in it, you would let them go instead of hiring them because 343 was run very poorly. Now, you've cut off both ends of that. You're not letting people go because of this contract work thing. You're just hiring them as a full-time position from the get-go, which is way more intelligent. And also, you've switched to a industry standard engine, so you've cut out that beginning chunk of people not knowing what they're doing. Phenomenal. It'll be better for not just production, but also for like morale, because people won't be like, oh, well, if I do one more year here, they're going to have to hire me, but they won't, they'll fire me, right? So people are going to feel a lot more confident about it. People are going to be paid more, which also makes people want to work harder. I know that sounds maybe weird to some people, but that's literally how it is. Like, you're going to work harder at a $30 an hour job than at a $15 an hour job. It's just nature. You're going to be more attached to it. You're going to be more invested in it because it's more invested in you, quite frankly. And they've also said that the developers are going to have a lot more input in what projects they're working on and sort of directions that it takes going forward. This was another thing that was really bad at 343 Industries, is they were basically just like, shut up and do what you're told. Whereas now it feels like, and from what we've been hearing from the inside, is people are just so much happier to work there now. And that is going to create better results. Just across the board, this is such an amazing step in the right direction. They could still put out a game that's not phenomenal. I will hold off until I see a good game. But I'm very excited at what is going to come from the studio in the future. And I think you should all be too. I really think that this is a new chapter for Halo. It's exactly what they describe it as. I'm fully in agreement. Looking at just the facts of what's going on, it's hard to argue that it's anything else but a hard reset on, like, we need to take Halo more seriously, which is, I think, exactly what the fan base has been saying for years now. And what makes that so exciting is that another thing that they said in this blog post was that they are already working on multiple Halo projects. Now, some of those things we can guess at because, like I said earlier, everything that we saw in Project Foundry is things that we can expect to see in future projects, or that they expect to use in future projects, to be more accurate to what they said. So we see a ton of things from Halo CE, which leads a lot of credence to the already existent rumors that they're working on a Halo CE remake or remaster. I personally hope that it's a full remake. We already got the Anniversary Collection, so just making it prettier isn't going to be enough. But the fact that they are having to redo it in a completely different engine does imply that they're going to basically have to remake it anyway. So what I hope for, and people might disagree with me on this, is I actually want to see it changed. Not dramatically, follow the same story beats, but I think a modern audience demands more from a game than what Halo CE was. In 2001, that was fine. You were basically just a cool guy who said cool things and shot cool aliens. And that's all you needed to be in 2001. In 2024, it's a different landscape. You really need to have more impactful story. You need to have characters that people can get really attached to. And I'm not saying Halo CE didn't have that. I'm saying that they didn't focus on it. And so I think if you're doing a remake of Halo CE, there's a couple of things that you want to do, right? You really are going to want to humanize these characters a lot more. You're going to want to have John, Master Chief, be a character with emotion and motivation other than just, I'm a soldier and I'm going to shoot the guys, right? Because that's kind of all he was in Halo CE. And I think you definitely need to improve on that. Maybe introduce some characters earlier. Maybe we see the Arbiter. Maybe we, like, in Halo CE, Johnson's basically just an NPC. Maybe he gets more lines. Maybe he's more important to the story. Maybe we see not just Captain Keyes, but Miranda Keyes. Maybe Cortana has more lines or more emotion or something. But you need to make this work better with a modern audience, because I think literally just re-releasing Halo CE is not going to be enough. So hopefully they are able to change it up a little bit. Not too much to piss off the old fans, although Halo is one of those franchises where no matter what you do with it, someone's going to be pissed off. There are people who got mad when Halo added the ability to aim down the sights on the gun. They were like, this isn't Halo. I never got to aim down sights in Halo 3E. And like, you're never going to please that guy. You're never going to please that guy. So just do what you think is right and make the game that you are passionate about, because it's going to be a better product and you're going to find that audience. You're going to find the modern audience who cares about it more. So you should do that. But while we know that Halo CE Remake or Remaster is pretty much guaranteed, I would say it's almost a lock that that's one of the projects they're working on. I think we can expect that they're working on probably 2 more. And I think one of them is going to be a spin-off where you're playing... here's what it's really more of a hope than what I think. What I hope is that one of them is a spin-off where you're playing as a different character. You are not Master Chief. Maybe you're Locke, maybe you're Johnson, maybe you're Buck. I don't really know. I don't really care. But a spin-off series that has a different tone and goes a different direction, and maybe is even a different genre, right? Something that's more story based, more character focused, because you do still need Halo to be like a shooter. You do still need it to be a big heavy multiplayer game, because that's what the audience is going to expect from it. But these spin-off titles, you can kind of go a different direction. If you want to make The Last of Us but Halo, you can do that. And I think that they want to do that. I think that they want Halo to become a franchise that can be more than what we think of it as. That's one of the things that they talk about a ton in their like briefings and what's it called, financial reports, is that they want to build franchises that can be more than just what they are. Whether that is multimedia access, whether that is like making TV shows or movies, whether that is branching into spin-offs and things like that. That's something that they talk about a ton, is building not just games but IP franchises. And so I think that one of these projects is going to be something unlike what we've seen previously. And I am personally hoping that that's a very heavily story-focused, character-focused, like mocap-ass game, right? I want Halo if it was made by a PlayStation studio. I know that's going to sound sacrilegious to other people, and I don't really care. Like, if you're mad to hear me say that, like, but imagine how good it would be. Am I wrong? Imagine if, like, a team as talented as Naughty Dog made a game that was very similar to A Last of Us, but was just in the Halo universe, and maybe you're playing as just a normal Marine or whatever, right? That would be really compelling. That would be so amazing. Halo can be that. I think it needs to also be what it has been. It needs to still be this like action shooter, high-paced thing with like great multiplayer. But if we're doing spin-offs, we can go another direction with it. And that's where I'm most excited. If there's a third project, I would expect it to be something very small. I think that we can also expect there to be some kind of like tie-in mobile game. They definitely want to do that. Like whether that is, I don't even know what it would be, honestly. But I would expect it to be something that will not get a hardcore audience excited, but will reach tons and tons and tons of people and expand the audience of what a Halo fan is. And I think the easiest way to do that is to make something that would work on mobile or would work on like a handheld gaming system better. Something that's directed to like that section of the audience. That's what I'm hoping for. And I think that's also what makes the most sense. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I'm actually really interested to hear this, because I put up a video a while ago and I would highly recommend watching it, about like what I would do to save the Halo franchise. This was almost a year ago or something now. It was ages ago, it feels like. Go and watch that. I recommend it. But let me know in the comments here, what do you want from the Halo franchise going forward? I'm very much of the mindset of just like reboot the whole thing, do spin-offs, make this more modern. Basically do what they did to God of War, but with it being a shooter and still keeping true to that a little bit more than what God of War was, I guess. But like, I'm talking like a full page 1 rewrite, basically. And I know that's going to piss off a lot of people. So let me know in the comments what you want, because I'm genuinely curious. I know that a lot of people are just like, probably going to be like, just do another Halo. And like, but that's not, I don't think that would be enough. Anyway, it doesn't matter. If you like this content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all the things that people like. We're getting really close to 1,000 subscribers, and I would love to hit that by the end of the year, although I don't really know if we're going to get there. But I do have some really big projects coming up soon. and I think you're going to be really excited about them. So stay locked to this channel. Big news coming soon, and I'll see you next time.